Hello, good afternoon. Hope you're all well. Just going to go through some checks at the start of our live stream. Sunny day here, sunny afternoon. This is Prananda from West Wales. And as you can see in the vise, we have a Lovespoon waiting to carve. Just check. Yeah, so we're all on. Yeah, hope everyone's okay. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us, we got this Lovespoon in the vise. We're carving a bit of oak again. You may notice from the different live streams that I quite like working in oak. What we're going to do, we're going to demonstrate the process of carving this Lovespoon. Now, you'll notice we've done all of our scroll sawing. We've got these drama masks, the fleur-de-lis, treble clef, dragon, and below a daffodil that's probably out of shot. So we get straight into it. So as always, you're starting off with those stop cuts. So I'm going to start on the treble clef. Reason I'm doing that, we've got Thomas the Woodcarver on the bench. I think you've got the gouge. Yeah, he's got the gouge that I was going to start carving on. So we'll start on this one because I've got the gouges that I need. But it's good to have both of us together on the bench. I think you're just working on taking some of the sharp edges off
everyone.
A bespoke spoon that we've been working on. Well, it looks like there's a few of you joining us from the logos. I would say the Wood Burning Warrior, yeah, and Tommy as well. Good afternoon and good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully it'll be useful. Hopefully it'll give you an idea of carving something a little bit different. So you can see what we've done with this. I do believe that this is going to be used as almost a presentation for a school. And so they've asked for some quite specific symbols. So we've got the drama masks in there and the treble clef, the music. And I believe that the fleur-de-lis then, I think that is actually on their school logo. But don't quote me on that. But hopefully it's something different. And it shows you how you can basically carve all sorts of different things on your Lovespoons.
I put your chisel back now.
Fantastic, how's that? Oh yeah, just saying hi to one another, no problem at all. Right, yeah, one thing I was going to sort of draw attention to, with the drama masks, when I was scroll sawing this, originally my intention was to just completely cut out all of the internal cuts. But what I ended up doing was drilling a hole for the eyes. And when I looked at it, I thought it would be quite effective then to cut the eyes down into the wood itself. So we end up with two different layers. So you've got the hole for the pupils, but the actual eye itself, the surround, I was going to, as you can see, what I'm demonstrating, we're going to carve it down into the wood. I thought it would be a bit more effective than just having a complete void. I thought it would add something extra to the design. So it just highlighting it because it shows how we adapt and we change what we're doing as we're doing it. So we do, as you know, we do quite a few demonstrations. We do a lot of explanations and things like that. And quite often it looks as if we're very structured and very planned in how we go about it. But a lot of decisions on what we're making and the way, more importantly, the way we make things, the method that we use, quite often we adapt it as we go along. So what we'll do is the same sort of processes that we would normally be going through. We're creating different levels and then different layers as we're going along. It's just got me thinking when we're working on different programs, like I use Photoshop quite a bit, and we're working in layers on that, and it's the same then. It's the same with what we do with our wood carving. So I'm just separating the different parts away from each other, and we're working predominantly with the grain. It's a reclaimed piece of oak that we're working in. As always, we've marked things out with that vertical grain. And that allows us then to be working as much as possible in the direction of the grain. So I'm going to go over to the other side, and I'm concentrating on getting these eyes, trying to get these eyes right first of all. And we're using different curved shaped gouges just to create the different shapes for us. And have a little check, there's a couple of comments on there. Oh no, just saying hello to one another, no problem at all. Right, so yeah, I'm just creating that sort of surround for the eyes. Quite a delicate little carving, but I'm hoping that it will certainly give a lot more character to the drama masks than if we'd have just completely cut out the voids. Gives it a little bit more of a realistic look and feel to it. For those of you who are sort of interested in the Lovespoon, the tradition, and if you're thinking of making your own spoons or are making your own spoons, this is a good example for how versatile the tradition itself is. So you can really include any symbols that you want to. And that's what we always feel makes a really authentic Lovespoon, is if it tells a story and has a message to share. So just by using our different curved shaped gouges, we can build up those stop cuts and use those stop cuts as a barrier, cutting down into the woods, getting those different levels and building up a picture, creating that image. Now this morning we've been in contact with a few different people, because what we do is that we tend to do a few bespoke spoons in almost a little bit of a batch, I suppose you could call it. But it's what happens is we have a number of requests coming in, and then we slowly carve them and contact people. I tend to do it all on one day of contacting people. So heard from a few people, and one thing that interesting that people were saying is they were saying that the drawing that we've sent to them, it wasn't doing justice to the finished Lovespoon, which is great for us. You'd rather it be that way around than people telling you that the Lovespoon is disappointing in comparison to the drawing. So it's the better way around to have it. But it's always difficult then to sort of create with a paper drawing a very accurate outline of what a Lovespoon is going to look like when it's finished. So interesting little insight for us that, yeah, people were pleasantly surprised by the finished results. And that's the thing with doing the carving, you can create those different layers, those different levels, and get different effects through the work that you do. And as well, as we're carving, whilst we have that paper drawing to work on, we also adapt it as we go in along.
You have one with initials to carve, do you?
I have indeed, yes.
Where is that? What's there?
No, I can't see it now. Somebody's... it's on the shelf. There we are. So we're busy. It's all action stations at the moment, because we've got spoons being... Leave it over here, Did.
Yeah,
We've got spoons being prepared to go out to people. So that's the main thing that's happening in the workshop this afternoon. We're having an afternoon of organising all of the bespoke spoons. You show me different lists here. I think it's that one there, but so you can see what we're doing is we're just carving, using those stop cuts, carving the wood a way that we don't want, and as that design disappears, we get that beautiful grain and character in the wood itself. So we just bring this spoon down a little bit further in the vise, and the next stage, quite often when I'm organising work, I'll either go from sort of top to bottom or bottom to top. With this one, I wanted to have a little look at these drama masks straight away because it's not something that I carve on a regular basis. So I wanted to have a good little look at those first before we go on to other parts. Most of the other parts of the carving we've done before. So with this one, we're going to concentrate now on the fleur-de-lis at the top. And again, using the stop cuts, we're going to get those different layers and those different levels. So it's creating that image. A lot of it is getting an image in your head of what is the most sort of prominent, what is the top layer. So I always think that with the fleur-de-lis, this little ring then in the center, that is the part that's going to be most proud. So I start off focusing my attention on the fleur-de-lis in that little ring in the middle, because these parts of the design, I always think they sort of go into that ring. So we're basically keeping that ring at as the highest layer that we're working on. And of course, because I sit to carve, I try to do the carving in the one direction, turn it around in the vise, and then carve back in the opposite direction. You'll notice as well, I started this Lovespoon before we started the demonstration because I knew I had quite a lot of work in it. So I've done some of the carving around the outside, shaping the spoon. I've also carved the bowl, that sort of thing, before we've started the demonstration. But this is very much our current situation with the various lockdowns and things like this. This is mainly what we're doing in our workshop now, our bespoke Lovespoons, one-off designs. And it's good fun because we get to carve different things and we get to design different things, more individual work. It's more time consuming, but it is good fun at the same time because you do get to do different things every day. Right, let's have a quick check. Making I die. Hello, Tommy's workshop. Hi, Tommy. Been making some Lovespoon. Ah, good. Making some Lovespoons. Well, I hope you're enjoying it. It's a great process, and it's yeah, it's a tradition that we certainly are trying to grow and trying to spread the message of the Lovespoon, and it seems to continually becoming more popular and generating more interest with people. And for anybody else who's interested in wood carving, the Lovespoon is a fantastic way to learn because you can start off in a very simple way and develop from there and start carving all sorts of different things and all sorts of different styles. That's the nice thing with bespoke requests, is you do get people asking us to carve literally all sorts of different things. So you can see we're just building up these different layers. So I'm carving the fleur-de-lis in the one direction as much as possible. And what I'm doing, I'm shaping all of this around. Afterwards, when I'm finishing things, I'll probably sand all of this to round it off a little bit more. And ideally, this is going back to, so when we're sanding in there, ideally, you know, when we're sanding, we would prefer to be using a block. The problem then with using a block is that it's sort of square in shape. So a lot of these different parts of the design, you can't get into to be able to sand them and shape them. I think we've just got the carver with us. Yes. An early start today. Indeed, I got myself organised for a change. Hope all's well with yourself. Been good seeing some of your different shots by the carver. I've seen a few different things that you've been up to on Instagram. Some nice projects. And there was one thing that I picked up on particularly, which I know you showed me when we spoke. And that is using a model to work from, which I think is a great idea. Making a little clay model. For any of you that are doing relief carving, I hope the carver doesn't mind me sharing that one with you. great little idea that you're using, which is to make a clay model which can help. I think that's a really good tip for anybody. As I said, I hope you don't mind me sharing that one, because it's a really useful one, I think, for people, is making a clay model like that, because it helps you to get the idea of the different shapes and how you can go about making things. So yeah, I did pick up on that one, and I think that's a fantastic idea that you're doing. So you can see, again, we're working into concentrating on this fleur-de-lis at the top. And this is a symbol we've carved a number of times, a number of occasions we've done it. And usually I would be carving it actually smaller than this. But that's what I do. I use this sort of ring in the design as almost the focal point. What can I call it? I'm going to try and get posh now. The fulcrum, isn't it? The fulcrum of the design. So that's what I focus in on, is that ring, and we're just making that actually become the top layer, and then afterwards we're going to shape these parts of the designs in and around that ring. So we just curl everything over, and that's quite often what we're doing, is creating those different layers through the carving that we do. I'll probably also just round off the edges just a little bit. And that's what we do. And a lot of the carving, that's what it comes down to, is deciding. You have those decisions as a carver to make. Which part of the design am I going to push back? Which part are we going to bring out in the design? So those are the sort of the key areas that we're constantly thinking of and putting our attention in. Myself, then, you'll notice that, you know, when we're carving, we can explain what we're doing as we're going along. Reason for that is a lot of these decisions, then, over time they become largely second nature. So we're not thinking to that degree about what we're doing. It's only if we're doing a carving where we're not so sure where we're going, or the wood that you're working in does something that you're not expecting. That's when you'll notice I'll go a bit more quiet, because we start to concentrate a little bit harder. But as a general rule, I find when it comes to wood carving, if you're carving nice and relaxed, that's to do my best carving. If I'm nice and relaxed and not too intense, not too nervous or anything like that. Nice relaxed grip on the tools, and a nice easy relaxed approach to everything. Oh, I think you've got a few responses there. We'll have a quick check. It's the first time using a model. I don't mind at all. Die out of interest. I'm another die. There's a few of us about. Family back in Wales, they asked me if I'm making Lovespoons like my great granddad. Ah, fantastic. So it's in the blood. Yeah, there's a few of us dies about. And yeah, that idea that I saw through the carver's work of using a model, I think that's a really good idea. Over the years, we got Thomas the Wood Carver. He's on packing duties for us here today, sorting out all of our spoons for packing. That's something I've seen yourself doing before, isn't it? Is using a model.
Yeah.
I can remember when we made a spoon that had almost like the Olympic style rings on. And you made a cardboard model for that one, didn't you?
Still got it somewhere.
You still got the cardboard model. And
but the best one of all was when I carved a bust.
Right.
It's over in the corner there. It was Mum.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he carved the bust. Yeah.
And it was our first big argument when we got married.
Yeah, because
she said, "Stop looking at me like a specimen."
Yeah, that's right. And
and
you were complaining because she wouldn't sit still. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's always two sides to an argument.
Be careful if you're using a model.
Yeah. And but it's a good, you know, for yourselves. Hopefully, that's the idea of our live streams. That's the idea of our videos, is to help others who are looking for methods and ideas, who are basically either wanting to learn wood carving or improve your wood carving. Great to hear, though, if it's in your family with the Lovespoons, great to hear that you're continuing that. Fantastic. I like to carve without music or anything around. Ah, that's an interesting one, because, yeah, we're all different. And this is the thing, you've got to find out what suits yourself. I throw it open to everyone. Yeah, what suits yourself? Do you need peace and quiet? Do you need to be left alone to carve? Or myself? There we are. I'm on YouTube. I'll promote YouTube for Google. Yeah, when I'm actually working, when I'm carving stuff, I've usually got the camera on, filming a time lapse, but because we're spending a lot of time doing it, I tend to put on a video on YouTube and watch the YouTube video as I'm carving. But if interested to know, I'll throw it open to everyone. What's your preference? Do you like peace and tranquility when you carve? Do you like to be able to concentrate? Do you like to have a few distractions around? Yeah, interesting one. I think as well, sometimes with me, it depends on the actual carving that I'm doing. If there's something that I'm a bit concerned about, then perhaps I might not have the video running and things like that. But generally speaking, I've usually got a few distractions around me, because I find I carve best when I'm relaxed and when I'm not concentrating too intensely. But I'll throw it open there. What's the consensus? Silence and solitude, or people around? I think with me, perhaps it comes from growing up around it. We always had people in the workshop, so we never had a choice on that, did we? We were always carving and sharing what we do with people.
Yeah, you just, well...
Because it's interesting, over the years in the workshop, we've had people come in and they've said to us that they do wood carving and woodworking, and they said with us, something they did, where they don't like anybody watching them while they're working. And I've always sort of said to them, it's never bothered me, but I think maybe growing up at a young age, my son now, he likes to come in at different times, and when he was coming in and we were having visitors, I think he quite enjoyed where people were interested in seeing what he was doing, and quite amazed that a young lad was taking an interest in the practical skills of wood carving. So I think that sort of conditioning helps, doesn't it?
I think also with the fact that the Lovespoon in Wales, we actually have to prove to people that we are making.
Well, that's right. That's part of
because a lot of them are made.
That's part of our story. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people ask, how did we end up sort of starting our YouTube channel, and why did we start a YouTube channel? Well, one thing we were noticing is that a lot of Lovespoons around our home country here in Wales, a lot of them, they're not being made in Wales, or if they are being made in Wales, they're being made on CNC computers and things like this. So that was a sort of inspiration for us.
And also people they get them made in Africa and China,
and
then they just initial them.
That's right.
And they say,
that's right. We've made it in
the initials.
That's right.
They actually carved the spoon there.
So that was a bit of an inspiration behind then our YouTube channel. One of the inspirations was to be able to share that, look, this is a Welsh Lovespoon. This is how they're made in Wales. But the nice thing through YouTube then is that things have grown, and what's been great is to hear from Lovespoon carvers, not just in Wales, but all around the world. And that's a nice thing as well, to think that there's the interest in the tradition from further afield. Yeah, but the biggest thing that I think, in terms of getting us started, we wanted to be able to show and share how we make things, how we carve things, and to encourage others to do the same. So you can see as I'm going, I'm using like a polishing sandpaper just to shape it as well. So I'll check there. We're going to carve that last time. My first carving for my wife. Pregnant woman holding her belly. Shock. Spent the whole night focusing on perfecting. Well, this is the interesting thing, see, because we are all different. See, I'm more in that sort of thing where I like the. I find when I like now, I'm thinking more about speaking with yourselves, sharing what we do, trying to explain. Those are the things that I'm concentrating on. And the only time that you'll hear me sort of change is if the wood makes a funny noise, which happens from time to time. Then I'll start looking at it and thinking, right, what has happened there? That's the only time that I'll start concentrating more, because I find I carve at my best when I'm relaxed and when I'm not too intense, and when you're sort of you're carving and you're not really putting a huge amount of thought into it. You are, but it's more sort of subconscious. It's a subconscious thing. It's a natural flow to it. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. So you can see now what we're doing. We're just shaping. That's a style thing that I like, where I just bevel the edges around our carvings. So we're just shaping around the fleur-de-lis. And we go down as far as there, because because of the nature of the design, that's where the grain starts to go in the opposite direction. So as it changes direction, that's as far as we go, and then we'll carve then that back in the opposite direction. Have we got any other thoughts there on what you prefer when you're working, when you're carving? Mine will be mine in Sheffield. Good. Made in Sheffield. Well, there's been some good stuff made in Sheffield, because our gouges, a lot of quality. You're in a great area in Sheffield for getting hold of good tools, because Sheffield was a real centre. I know, even if you're in the US, if you ever see gouges, if they are proper Sheffield steel, good stuff. Good quality stuff, the Sheffield tools for the hand carving. Sheffield and London steel, I always find a really top quality stuff. So some Sheffield made Lovespoons. Sounds good, I like it. That's the nice thing with a tradition and things like this, and the nature of the Lovespoon. It's there to be enjoyed by everybody. So you can see we're just shaping that bottom part of the treble clef. This one here, we carve the treble clef regularly. The only slight difference with this one is it's a little bit smaller than a lot of the treble clefs that I do. The reason for that, in this particular design, we needed a slightly larger fleur-de-lis. So normally with the fleur-de-lis, I would actually do it a fair bit smaller. But because it's the school logo, and that was an important part of the design, I ended up making the treble clef slightly smaller and the fleur-de-lis slightly larger. And that's the nice thing when we're doing bespoke spoons, is that we can adapt to cater for different requirements like that. So as I did my first design, the recipient was saying that they needed the fleur-de-lis to be a bit larger, so we redesigned it. We actually reshaped the spoon as well. There was quite a alteration, to be honest with you. There was quite a bit of work on altering this one, and we made those alterations, and the design was more suitable then for what they wanted. Again, this one here, the oak, you may be catching on to the fact that we use quite a lot of oak. Lovely piece to work with. I like oak because I find it quite consistent. Excuse me. So for other timbers, sometimes, well, you get flaws in all different timbers at different times, but I find that the oak that we manage to get out of furniture and things like that is pretty consistent. I know I'm going slightly towards myself, which I don't generally do, but it's just to cut that one little bit as opposed to turning it round and turning it back again. As I mentioned then, that is the point there where the direction turns in the opposite. So that's why I carved down to there. Now that's an instinctive thing as well, where we find that you get to a point and you're starting to feel resistance. And when you start to get that resistance, then you go in the opposite direction, because that's the point where the grain has changed. So let's start off by finishing this one here. And I'm going to check on there as well. I think we got a few more comments there. I missed a few. Oh, Dad's going to check them as he goes by. Saves me from stopping the carving.
What tunes have you read, Dave?
I think I've read all, but the most recent one. We were talking about preferences when you're carving. Do you like peace and quiet?
Okay,
Do you like...
Woodburning Warrior, sometimes I get into a zone.
Yeah, that's it.
Making a Better Life. Mine will be made in Sheffield by a Welshman.
Yeah, fantastic.
The Carver Lol. My first carving for my wife was a pregnant woman holding her belly. Shotgun weddings are the best. I spent the whole night focusing on and perfecting the backside to avoid drama. Always music.
Well, now I'll ask Thomas the woodcarver. What is your preference for? What is your preference for when you're?
Have you done the one about the birds?
No, it was the one about the birds.
Okay, the Woodburning Warrior. My workshop is in the forest, and I love listening to the birds and different sounds while I'm carving.
Fantastic. And that's something then we're fortunate, and I know others who join us the same, where we're in a nice sort of rural area, and we have a lot of the garden birds around us and stuff like that. And it is, if you've got a nice environment to work in, it makes a big difference. We'll ask Thomas the woodcarver. Yourself, you're pretty much where you don't worry about distractions too much when you're carving, do you?
Not really.
No.
It gives you a bit of a break, really. You can,
I think if you're too intense...
So intense.
Yeah. I think if you're too intense when you're carving, it definitely has an impact. And it can have a negative impact. I think what we're trying to get across, I'll give you the examples of when we've taught others to carve. So we've had, over the years, a number of people in, less so now, because rules and regs and health and safety and things like that, it's more difficult for us to allow people to do any carving at the workshop. But when we used to teach people, people would get really nervous, and one thing you would notice, when they're gripping the tools, you'd see there'd be what we refer to as like a white knuckle syndrome. So when they hold the gouges, they'd be holding them really tightly and pushing really hard and things like that, instead of just doing those simple things of finding the cutting angle. And that would come out then in the carvings. When they were doing that, that would very much reflect in the carvings that sort of nervous, tense nature would come out in the finish that was produced. So I think that's the point that we're getting at. We used to sort of do a test, and when someone was gripping it, if you could really see tension in the hands, then we would regard it as not ideal for wood carving. So we're on to now, I think we're just about ready there at the top of the design. So we're going to work now on the middle portion of the design. So we've got a heart right in the centre. So we're just going to bevel the top edge of that one there. Now again, I think we're going to have to check the directions as we're carving. We'll check the directions of the grain. Yeah, over the years, it's been an interesting thing for us to be involved in is when you're teaching people. And some are natural when it comes to carving. And then, as I said, others get very nervous, very anxious. We've had some in over the years that will, for instance, use the mallet as if it's a sledgehammer trying to break up blocks or something like that, where they'll hit it very, very hard. But as you go along, you develop your skills and your knowledge, and you improve your techniques. So this one we're on to, the Welsh Dragon. This is one of the most frequent carvings I seem to be doing. I've just done a demonstration for for our YouTube channel, we've actually been making some clocks. So when Dad comes in now, he's just been called out to the telephone. I'll get him to bring across one or two of the clocks. But that's going to be an upcoming video, is demonstrating to you all how we make clocks in wood. And yourselves, you had a contribution with that, because we threw it open to everyone, asking you all for the places where we could get clock movements from. And thanks to yourselves, we managed to find a good supplier. And for the first time in probably 10 years, we are back making clocks again. But if you've never made any clocks, it's a good one to do. And it's a popular item that we make. The biggest problem we were having on that front was getting good quality movements. But as I said, thanks to yourselves, we've managed to get a few. So again, the dragon, I tend to have a set method that I use to carve it. So I start off with the head, and we drop down the levels. So we take away all the paper drawing, and we then go on to working on this front claw, and that's ultimately the essence of the carving that we do. It's just getting those different levels. We describe our carving, a lot of the carving we do is a sort of low relief. So we're just going to drop this claw, this front arm of the dragon, just down to another level. And we'll do a little bit of detail on it as well, just to finish it off. But that's why we enjoy these types of projects, because they challenge us a little bit, but it also means that we can do different things, different styles. Some of the recent projects that we've got on at the moment, we got one where we're doing a fish. There's a fish, a dragon, different flowers, and what else? We've just done one that we don't do very often now, with a couple of seeds on, some of the traditional Lovespoon, what you refer to in the US, a ball in a cage. With the Lovespoon we refer to it as a seed. We don't do many of those now because they are rather time consuming to do. So we're just working on the claws of the front arm, and so it's dropping it down to another level. Just those little bit of detail that adds an extra element to the carving. So I'll sand it off, sand it nice and smooth.
Just one for another one, you right?
No problem at all.
Okay, I've got all the details there.
No, that's fine. Yeah, so as I was saying, that's what we do, is we have a few sort of bespoke spoons, and then today is our day for organising to get all of those Lovespoons ready for sending out to people. One of the jobs we have to do on that front, I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but we find that the couriers and the postal service, they're all good to a degree, but packaging's always something.
Can I come in on that side?
Yeah.
Can I just
Here we are.
you? Okay.
Well, because I know different ones are making stuff and selling stuff. Here we are. So Yolanda, my wife, she packs up the spoons like that. So she puts a little. So we concentrate on our presentation, and then from there, Thomas the wood carver makes like a wooden surround.
That's a frame.
Like that. So any of you who are,
depending what material we've got,
available.
That's,
so you can see that's a bit of chipboard.
Chipboard on there.
Chipboard on the one side. One side, and then
if I pop the spoon in,
there you go. We'll have to do a demonstration. Thomas Woodcarver will have to do a demonstration of how he makes his simple boxes, but they're so effective because whilst we haven't had many problems, we did have the odd problem before Dad started making the boxes.
I know it's, it's an extra expense.
It is, but it saves us in the long run, doesn't it?
But, if you're making a spoon...
Well, we had one Lovespoon that came back, that had been damaged. We didn't actually know the circumstances of how it got damaged, but for us, it's a bit disappointing then when you do have a spoon damaged at some stage where you have the spoon back and you've got to do more work.
Yeah.
It's
well, you know, if it's a bad break,
yeah, you may have had to have started all over again. So that's why.
So anybody sort of into spoons or anything like this,
think about how you package stuff.
Yeah, you've got to really build that into the cost.
That's right.
And you're better to be over cautious.
Exactly. Yeah, we would rather have stronger packaging. But having said that, even with what we've done, I dare say there is potential for.
You can never guarantee 100%.
You can't.
There can be.
So hopefully those will all arrive safely in their new homes.
Yeah.
But you never say never. But that's how we package everything, because it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because that is the one thing that we have no control over, is the delivery services.
Because of course the spoon, being sort of, what can I say? I know I shouldn't say this really, but there we are. It could be taken out of the box and dropped.
Yes.
And damaged.
That's right.
Um,
Well, the wood has it almost has like a sweet spot to it, doesn't it? And if it gets caught at a particular angle, it's just a complete accident. We've had it happen to ourselves.
Yeah, well, all I'm saying is it can be taken out of the box. It can be delivered safely, taken out of the box, dropped, damaged.
Yeah.
And we try and make it so that the customer then can't turn around and say, "Oh, this was poor packaging." Like, you know, it's,
that's right.
It's
anticipating the problems before they happen. That's what we try to do, but making boxes has certainly helped.
I'm only making the points for anybody that's sort of into starting.
Well, hopefully it's useful if you're looking at woodworking and wood carving more seriously. Perhaps, you know, there's different platforms that people are selling on now. It's one of those things where if you cut corners with the packaging, it can have consequences. And when you are spending the time making certain things, getting your packaging right can save you in the long run.
In fact, we've got a bridge, haven't we, where if it's a spoon up to £50.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So if it's a spoon up to £50, we send it using the one method. And if it's above that, we send it using a different method.
We still try and make it as secure as possible. But if it's up to £50, I don't make the surround the same.
Carver's just said he does the same thing. He tends to over package, but it's one of those things where you know how long you've spent working on a piece, and so, you know, to come unstuck with the delivery and things like that is a bit gutting. It's a real shame. So far we haven't done too badly at all, and I got to say the courier services, the postal services, by and large they do a good job. Our dealings out in the US, I mean, we have people saying different stuff about it, but generally speaking, we've been delivering to the US through the US Postal Service because it goes through Royal Mail here, and so far they've been pretty good. In fairness to them, we had one Lovespoon went out to Texas, and that came back to us because unfortunately the gentleman was in Afghanistan, wasn't he?
Yeah, at the time.
And his wife or girlfriend received the package and didn't know what it was, and so they sent it back to us. And so we had to send it back out again, but that's a one-off. What we tend to do as well on that front, I tend to always check all the postal details. So if we're sending something out, I make sure that we've got the postal details correct before we start. But there we are. That's the nature of our live stream. See, we end up going off onto all sorts of other subjects as we're carving. We're on to postal services and packaging. I'd like to know how Thomas the Woodcarver makes his packaging boxes. Yeah. Do you want to? We could do a demonstration on that, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what we do. I'll film him doing that. Or do you want to bring it across and just explain?
Yeah.
But we can do a video on that in the future.
Yeah.
We can do a video on that in the future, but it's sort of a simple box design, isn't it?
This is. Yeah.
So what he's basically done, here you go. So he's cut 4. The first thing you do, he measures the Lovespoon. So he measures the length and width of the Lovespoon and makes 2 soft woods, side pieces and top and bottom end pieces. And then he just pins them together. So you've got 2 pins like that. And so for instance, I know yourself, the carver, you've got a bandsaw. So you could make those, cut those on your bandsaw. You've got the coronet, so Dad uses the coronet. Now then the next bit...
In fact, if you just squeeze gently there, you can feel it's, it's even strong in the middle there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
As it is. And we haven't put the...
So from there,
from
there, what you've done. So I'm thinking with that, you've basically, have you split it in 2?
It was some old Wayrock that we
Wayrock
floor,
chipboard floor. It looks like flooring or something.
So we've split. It was 3/4. So we've split it down the saw, down the circular saw.
Yeah. So to get more out of it, what he's done, he's to split it down into 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Is it into 2 pieces or 3 pieces?
I get 2 pieces.
You get 2 pieces.
I do have an offcut as well.
So you've got 2 pieces. Then that's the Wayrock.
The fire then.
But again, you can use whatever
We'll pin it. We'll pin 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll pin the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And then this is the
top,
so that'll fit inside,
just like so.
Okay, that'll go on top,
and then some pins.
And now,
you won't pin it there. We'll sellotape that.
Yeah, it's not, the top isn't pinned. It's just sellotape, but you can see that's a complete.
Yeah. So to break that, it's going to break something else before it gets broken.
And also,
afterwards, then what we do in terms of packaging, we put brown paper around this. If it's going out with the one courier, we print off. They have a details, a barcode, and all that you have to print off. And if it's going out with Royal Mail or what you have in the US Postal Service, if it was going out with that, we would print a packaging label. We've got like a Dymo label. We've got a Brother printer label as well.
We put the leaflets inside.
Yeah, any information
so that
like
if the brown paper gets ripped off, there's be a leaflet outside stuck on.
Yeah.
Leaflet
so
inside.
What we try to do is to make it where it's got the best possible chance when it comes to. I mean, it's famous last words, but that's what we try to do, is to make it where it's got the best possible chance of being delivered.
I think one of the most difficult areas is when it's being delivered to somebody, for instance, in like a hall of residence in a college.
Yeah, we've had a few,
that kind of thing, or they're in a flat.
Yeah.
In London.
Yeah.
Where
there's more than one address at the location.
Yes. So it's
and another thing, here we are. The things that we end up talking about. Another thing that we've experienced, because 5 years ago, if you'd have asked us about sort of online selling and postal and things like that, we weren't doing that much of it. But now with COVID and things like this, the demand for online sales has gone up dramatically. And so we've learnt a lot about it. And one thing that we never used to do, and now we always do, we always check the address, because that's cost us a few £100, where people, they will go on our website and they will put their address in, and it's amazing how often it's put in incorrectly.
Yeah.
And so it's worth noting for everybody. I know it may be an irritation, but if you are posting things to people, spending 2 or 3 extra minutes. So, for instance, here we can go on the Royal Mail.
Yeah, somebody's saying here as well: renew, reuse, recycle.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, spot on. We use that a lot. We renew and we reuse, we recycle a lot. Yeah, we go on the Royal Mail website and we can check the address. Now, I'm thinking, in America, Now tell me if I've got this right or not. In the US, I think it's Zillow, which is a company. It's a real estate company, and quite often I'll put in an address for, and there's another online sort of estate agents, and quite often if I've got an address for the US, I will go on those and I'll double check the details. I think I've got that one right, and I'll double check those details online, because I'd rather check them before sending them that everything is right. So for instance, the other day, somebody put the wrong number in for their address, and I checked it on the Royal Mail website and it didn't exist. So I rang them up and they'd done something simple, like they put in a 9 instead of an 8, or vice versa. And they just said, oh, thanks for ringing up. And we solved a problem, because what would have happened, it would have gone out with Royal Mail. They would have kept hold of it for several weeks, and then it would have come back to us, and we'd have had to have contacted the customer and reposted it. And basically, we end up carrying the costs of that quite often. So it's just saves us a little bit. We're going to see. We continue on. But any other questions on that? Yeah, let us know your thoughts and your experience with it all, because it is a good area for you all to consider, is, you know, that online market. But there are sort of other aspects to it that are worth considering if you're involved in that sort of thing. Now with this one, when we start doing the claws on the feet and things like that, you've always got to go quite carefully on these bits. It's very, very easy to snap off one of the claws on the dragon. So if any of you do have a go at the dragon, it's one I demonstrated several times before, but it's something that I don't always emphasize. Because of the way we do the Welsh dragon, we do the full Pendragon, which is the Welsh dragon as you see it on the flag. Because of the way we do it, you have to be really careful with all of these little bits. So I find using a smaller gouge reduces the chances of those bits just splitting and things like that. I still want to know, did anyone comment? Was I right? Was it Zillow?
No, I can't see any comment on that.
No comments on that one. I think it is. But there we are. It's we call it over here. It's known as Rightmove, and it gives you all the prices of properties. But I don't know how else with the US addresses to check them, but I always do. So you can see, yeah, we're just bringing down the claws on the feet of the dragon. But I go quite steadily on these bits because it's so easy just to split off one of the claws, and then what you end up having to do is to match all of the other ones to it. So it's the sort of mistake that adds quite a bit of time to whatever you are making. So same again onto the second one. And what I also try to take into account, because we use a paper drawing, I try to... What have we got there? Oh, here we are. You're thinking reuse.
I mean, that.
Here we are.
If I could just bring that.
Thomas Woodcarver's showing you a fine example here.
Okay.
Of what we're using for our packaging.
That's...
And we'll show you that. Where's it come off? We won't tell anyone. Put it in the comments section. Where do you think that's come off? You should be able to guess that one.
Show the length as well.
That's the length.
It's quite a long...
So this will be the wood that we'll use for our packaging.
Yeah, it goes right through there, comes up the other end.
There we go.
There we are.
Put it in the comments section.
I'm turning on edge as well because it's actually...
It's ply.
Birch plywood.
Yeah.
It's birch faced plywood, which is really...
Good stuff, isn't it?
It is good stuff.
Birch ply.
I'm going to take that in and split.
So let us know in the comments, where's he had that one from? But it's a good...
It's been recycled.
Has anybody got it?
Well, spot on.
Yeah.
Anthony Harris. Futon
Aubrey.
or IKEA bed.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that being... The what do you call them? The
slats.
The slats.
Yeah,
the slats to support the mattress. Yeah.
Probably
so
probably a child's mattress or something like that. Like, you know?
So that's wood that's come into us. As Dan said, it's birchwood ply. So we're not going to use that then. We're not going to try carving birchwood ply. But for making our packaging, it's good quality. So it's a good example for where you can source, you know, wood for these other things that we sort of have to do. As we're explaining this, you know, it just sort of, it comes into your head, the sort of different things that we have to learn and the different skills that we develop just to survive.
Yeah, the carver things, IKEA.
IKEA.
Makes more sense.
Goodness knows where that one, I think it's my brother Matt, I think, brought that one into us, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, what's happened now, birch face ply is again quite expensive now. It's become
we don't see a lot.
We don't see a lot of it. Birch face ply.
No.
But I've always liked that. If you're going to use ply, that's one of my preferred ones.
Yeah. Because when we were making that, the doll's house,
yeah,
it was difficult to get hold of anything like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nigh on impossible. And of course, you'll be finding at the moment with the costs with lumber and things like that, because of the size that we want and the type of wood that we're working in, the increases in the lumber costs, it's not affecting us to that degree because we recycle and we reclaim a lot. But my friend now, he's a fabricator and he's dreading having to buy wood. He buys his pine that he's making his buildings from. He buys it from Sweden and he's just seeing prices go up and up and up. So he's getting a bit concerned now for when he has to buy wood next, for how much it's going to cost, and things like all the fixtures and fittings as well. That's going up a lot in price. So not good for him, but for ourselves, because we recycle and reclaim, it doesn't affect us to the same degree. And the quantities, it's just the sheer volume that he's working in as opposed to ourselves. So you can see we've just got all of the details done on those claws and on the feet of the dragon. So we're just going to work back down in one direction, just like so. And I think we will also just do, I'll take that bit that's come loose, the paper drawing. I'm missing a little cut on the wing there. And I'm just working on the bits that I can do in this direction. And again, we'll turn it around in the vise and we will carve back the other way. So just a little bit there. And this is what we're doing then. We're just working our way through the design. I'm going to work on that heart as well and on just beveling this edge. So that's another little bit. And that's what you're doing. It's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle in some ways. Getting rid of those bits that have been left behind. Those extra bits that need doing. Same on this bit over here. Just like so. And I will also do the beveling on the edge of the heart itself. Now this one here, it's been a fun spoon to carve. Sometimes you're going to be sort of faced with more challenges, but it's been a while since I've carved anything with drama masks on, and I've changed the style that we're doing our drama masks. In the past we've done the drama masks, but in quite a much more sort of simple way that we use, simple method. But with this one, I thought it had quite nice character to the design itself. So we're just beveling those edges, just like so. And I've got to say, this particular piece of oak, so far, it's been beautiful to carve. Now the last part of this design I'm going to refer to now. So I might do a little bit of detail on it now, and that's the daffodil. So with our daffodil, again, like the dragon, it's a symbol that we're carving regularly. A national flower here in Wales. And we had quite a nice lot this winter, going into the early spring. And again, we just start off by doing those stop cuts, so you get that basic profile, and then we use the stop cut as a barrier to work into. I'll just check if I missed any comments there. No. The last one was from the carver there. So again, we carve in the one direction, and we will turn it around in the vise, and we will work back in the opposite direction. Now, looking at things that we've got coming up on the channel, actually had a busy week. I've been, what we try to do is to try and get in front, so we've constantly got new content coming out for you. Remember, if there's any specific things, any specific areas you would like us to focus on, let us know. It's always a pleasure to be able to help out if you've got something that you're struggling with, or an area that we haven't focused on.
I got another interesting subject.
Do you like us to do? Where you want to? Here we are.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to... I'll just take that spoon out of the way. Do you want to put that in front of the camera?
There we are. Something else that somebody might be interested in. We've got a couple of...
that looks like lime, is it? No,
well,
it's not lime.
It's two apple pips that your son planted.
Well.
Okay, so it's a big thing now in our country.
I think it's a big thing globally, isn't it?
Well, planting trees over here now, it's the latest sort of in.
It's the latest craze.
Yeah,
it's planting trees.
The reason I put them there is because we're having a problem with squirrels.
Yeah.
And of course, they're planting thousands, millions of trees.
What's an interesting now, see, because different ones joining us are from North America. It's actually your squirrel from North America.
There we are.
Because our squirrel here was the red squirrel, but the grey squirrel, which came, I do believe that's right. Apologies if I'm wrong, but I think it was introduced from North America, and it's stronger. It survives better.
Yeah.
And it's taken a fancy to our bird feeder, isn't it?
Yeah, but you've got.
So we're in the process of relocating it.
Yeah, if we can. But,
yeah.
You know, you've got our government now with the latest sort of clever ideas. Everybody's planting these trees, wonderful, but they haven't really. Nobody's. I watched Country File.
Okay,
and they were even. I think another program on about planting fir trees, you know, and they're not really taking into account what's actually.
Well, this is an interesting point, actually, because
they've got to be guarded, those trees. Because
yeah, that's right. And an interesting point with this, I think, what in essence Thomas Woodcarver's getting at, there's a big thing in terms of planting trees, but we've got to make sure we're planting the right type of trees, surely. You know, because years ago they used to report about the problems with things like acid rain if you had too much of the pine trees, wasn't it? So hopefully that's the idea, and that's what we've always tried to do here, is to plant like native trees and trees that hopefully are going to be positive and have a positive impact. But yeah, I'm glad to see that I'll be, when my son comes home now, I'll be saying to him, that's fantastic. 2 apple pips that he's planted, and hopefully they will flourish into trees.
A point I make is often academics come in with some...
Was planting the right things, isn't it?
Wonderful ideas.
Yeah.
And then, you know, these trees, it's all very well, you can plant a million trees.
But if they're the wrong type of trees...
in the wrong area, and if you don't guard them at the start, and you don't...
Well, that's... I probably cut across you when you were saying it. That's the problem with the squirrels, isn't it? They strip the bark.
They strip the bark.
Yeah. and so they kill the tree. So that's why we're in the process of trying to relocate our resident squirrel.
And even the ash tree that I think we talked about it last week, a lot of trouble. This again was a government policy to the farms in this area, you weren't allowed to cut more than a third of your trees.
Yeah, so the farmers ended up damaging a lot of the trees because
they didn't cut them down. They got cranes and just hacked them.
Yeah.
And then you wonder then why they get diseased.
Well, what happened is that the farmers were not allowed to maintain them as they would normally do. And so to stick with the policies, the rules and regulations, as Dan said, they hacked at them with excavators and things like that, because that's what the rules told them to do. So you can see with our dragon now, we've started on our daffodil.
Yeah, I feel better. I love my bone.
That's Thomas the Woodcarver's rant of the day. Do you want to have a check some of these? We'll have to do Thomas the Woodcarver's weekly rant.
Thieving little boogers. Clean a bird, feed it out in a day.
They will indeed. Do you know, I mean, they're amazing things, the squirrels.
And the Sawyer, Rob, planted over 14,000 trees on his property. Wow. Oh, my Christ.
We're up to...
What sort of trees, I wonder?
Yeah, you let us know what sort of trees you're planting. That's brilliant. We've done a few hundred, but that's fantastic.
Yeah, we're nowhere near.
We're nowhere near that. That's brilliant. I saw today an article, somebody in Dorset, and they were doing a similar thing where they were replanting whole fields with trees. Because I mean, we've had it in the UK a couple of times. Like for instance, there were massive forests worth of Dutch elm trees pulled down in the 80s. There's massive forests worth of trees at the moment being pulled down through this ash dieback. Yeah. But yeah, what sort of trees are you planting?
And
that's amazing.
They were burning the wood.
That's right.
Which was not
the best idea.
What they're doing at the moment, they chip it.
Yeah, that's right.
But how safe is that? Because they're chipping diseased trees.
Well, you can guarantee if it's not safe, we'll be hearing about it in 20 years' time.
Probably, yeah.
That's how it usually works. But it hasn't been a good idea. They admit it 20 years later.
Well,
It'd
that's
be great
part
to know.
of the problem we have flooding in the area because they took hedgerows down.
Next week, Thomas the Woodcarver is going to be showing everyone how to make a soapbox. And a week after, he'll be showing everybody how to use it. You can see what we've tried to do. We've tried to take off most of the drawing, but I got to say I agree with the things you're saying. Yeah. So we're well on with this one now. We're going to just it's adding a lot with the dragon. It's adding those little bits of detail. So just to give it a little bit of extra sort of character to the design. We do a little bit on all the different parts of the design itself. And I still would like to know, I'd be fascinated to know on the different, those different trees, what sort of trees are being planted. Because that's brilliant. That is a few more than ourselves. I remember in the Scouts taking part in tree planting, there you go, tree planting events in Canada. Wow, brilliant. Canada, there's a few trees. Incredible, the landscapes and things I've seen with Canada, amazing. It's something, as I said, as Dan was saying and things like that, there is more attention in it, but on site, that's what we've done. We've gone for more deciduous trees and ones, things like the oak and the silver birch, and we've done a lot of our tree planting through an organisation here called the Woodland Trust, and they tend to concentrate on the traditional, because there's only a few sort of traditional trees that are native to the UK. It's actually quite a small list. Things like lime and beech, and so they they have sent us different ones that are suitable. So we're just going to finish off, add in these bits of detail. Also got to do a little bit more work on our daffodil, but all in all, that is coming on rather well. As Thomas the Woodcarver comes back in, I'm also going to ask him a question. I think with this one, Yep. Could you grab me the pot of shellac?
Okay.
Because I think that we're getting to the stage where if we put some shellac on, hopefully with the shellac on there, you'll be able to see some of the different parts of the carving just a little bit better. So we just... That's the nice thing with the dragon, is there's all these sort of little, almost spiky little bits of detail on it. So we can add all of those, finish it off nicely. One there and one there. So as I look, we've got the front of our dragon pretty much completed. We've got the back legs to do. And the wing, just the front wing. We've also got to do a little bit of beveling. A little bit of beveling around the outside. Back on the subject as well of squirrels, never ceases to amaze me that they're amazing to watch, because even when we've sort of tried to make it difficult for them, they still manage to find ingenious ways
it's an interesting one down here.
Of actually getting to the feeders. What have you spotted?
Okay, all we have is, he remembers
planting with the scouts.
In tree planting in the scouts.
Yeah.
In Canada.
Yeah, fantastic.
Sawyer Rob, white pine, Norway spruce, white spruce oaks,
Yeah.
American blow, American black walnut,
Wow.
American black cherry, and he's got an orchard too. So
wow, fantastic.
That's what he's been planting. Fantastic.
That is brilliant.
And then we got making a better life.
Yeah.
Certain diseases will spread from dead wood.
Yeah.
If in close contact.
Yeah.
Not sure about ash dieback. Most of our chip goes to farm bedding and never sees any woodland.
Yeah.
You know, so again, it's they're interesting.
Oh, so it's fascinating to know the different input and things like that.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, the ash dieback here, it's absolutely devastating, because we were surrounded by ash trees. They're all gone. Yeah. And if we just watched them literally in a few years, they've all just died. So we've been trying to replace them as fast as we can with things like the oak, silver birch, hornbeam. But I was saying, that's what we've done, is to put native trees, isn't it, with the Woodland Trust. So there's only certain woods, there's only certain trees that are native to us here, so those are the ones that we go for. And on the subject of the squirrel as well, the grey squirrel, which has come in from outside of the UK, it's just basically, it's a better survivor than our native red squirrel. So what they've done, close to here, there's an island called Caldy Island, and they've actually got a project there where they've introduced the red squirrel, and it's becoming like a bit of a sanctuary for the red squirrel, because it doesn't survive as well as the grey squirrel.
Yeah. Once you're on that sort of, this isn't a soapbox, all right?
Okay.
But it's a comment on the environment and, you know, saving the planet.
Well, I think it's an irrelevant discussion, because there's a lot happening, isn't there?
You know, your two boys are going to
primary school. Yeah.
And they're having to go. Well, your wife has to take them. Yoli has to take them down in a car.
Well, yeah, we have to drive them down.
4 trips in a car.
Yeah.
When you went to the same school,
there was a school bus.
There was there was a bus where all the children. So you had one bus taking all the children.
That's right. And today you've got 40 cars instead of that one bus.
Yeah. I wonder whether that's the same in, you know.
It'll be interesting to know in America.
Especially in America, what happens? Because haven't we got some of the American buses, those yellow ones?
No, they were ex-German
Oh, right.
military ones that were left in Pembroke Dock and converted from left-hand drive to right-hand drive.
Right, I
But
see.
yeah, that's what's happening here is that the local authority, they cut all of the bus services for the schools. And environmentally, that's what's happening now, is that you've got 40 or 50 cars travelling to each school as opposed to a single bus. So again, it's that carbon footprint has gone up and up.
Yeah. So, you know.
It's that policy making again you were referring to, Thomas.
Well, yeah, it is. It's the...
But it's one of those things where the reason we're talking about it and stuff like that is as wood carvers, I mean, at different times we've had people come in and say, oh,
the carver says it's not this isn't a soapbox. Thank you for that. It is important.
Yeah, that's right. We've had over the years people will say to us, oh, you're using wood and cutting trees down, but I think this discussion highlights it.
On Better Life, he went to Tenby and Colney.
Ah, nice. Yeah, and very nice. Caldy has actually been closed for a while. I think they've reopened it now, but during the pandemic, they closed it all down.
Oh, and this one, Anthony Harris. Big issues in Canada with the ash boring beetle. You will see signs restricting wood brought in from other areas, e.g. campground fires, etc.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's a really interesting discussion because you can see it is having an effect on us
I missed this one
all over.
Careful with birch, it's a primary establisher.
Yeah.
i.e. it will crowd everything else out.
Yeah.
We used it to quickly reclaim moorland to forest and then clear it and replant with beech and oak.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what we're only, what the ones we're planting is the ones that are on the list, isn't it, of native ones with the Woodland Trust.
Yeah.
So anything, the silver birch is on that native list.
Yeah.
And
well, I think the silver birch,
it's slower growing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it might be a softer one as well. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not sure.
But it's always worth approaching stuff with a bit of caution.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, you can only do your best, and
that's right.
I hope we are doing the right thing. But
yeah, but I think what is relevant is that people who are interested in woodworking, I think what is really coming across, people who are interested in woodworking and involved in woodworking are interested in trees and nature, probably more so than a lot of people, despite the fact that at different times we ourselves have had people saying, oh, look, you're the cause of trees being cut down.
Yeah.
I think it's the opposite. I think we're the ones who are more interested in what's happening in our environment and the future of the environment we're in.
I put the shellac. Did I put the brush there?
Yeah, yeah. We've got the. I think you did. You had the brush. I think you were drying it off. So that is the whole top and middle portion of the spoon finished. And that's ready then for a little bit of sanding. We've just finished off the demonstration by doing the daffodil as well. But it's great to be able to share with you all. You know, this is very much what we do as our day job. And this is, you know, going back 5 years ago, we'd virtually stopped doing bespoke spoons like this because we just didn't have time for it. Because we were having visitors to the workshop. So today we find ourselves in a situation where we're not having visitors in the same way to the workshop, but it allows us to do more individual spoons and to then share it with yourselves.
Aubrey Harris says,
showing how we do it.
There's an interesting video by a guy called the History Guy about the effect of the extinction of the passenger pigeon.
Right.
The growth of different kinds of oak in the United States.
Wow.
Aubrey Harris brackets, which affects the production of bourbon whiskey.
Oh wow. This is the incredible thing with all.
Carver, he'd much rather carve something that fell on its own than to go and take a healthy tree.
Yeah, and that's like, for instance, we've got we got a local tree surgeon, and what he does, he's basically maintaining the trees, and he's not cutting the trees down quite often. So, for instance, recently he did a job where there were yew trees that needed pruning, so he's pruning them back, and he brought us a load of that yew, and that's fantastic stuff. But the tree itself, it grows on. It grows on. And that's what our sort of plans are, is to plant more and more trees. Those ones are looking good there that Nico's done.
Yeah.
The pips, the apple seeds, the apple pips that he's planted.
Oh, you are making a better life. I'm ex-wildlife trust and tree surgeon.
Oh, fantastic.
Silver birch is a nightmare once it gets hold. It's used as a tool to quickly build up a canopy and leaf matter, but then it needs significant management. We'll bear that in mind.
We'll have our local tree surgeon on red alert.
Because that's being promoted actually by the Woodland Trust.
It was the Woodland Trust who.
So, you know.
So your input will be forwarded to those in the family who are maintaining the trees more so. I'm thinking my brother now, because it's all relevant to know these things. That's fantastic to know, because that's why we were told they were selling that as a package. They were selling them in a trio, weren't they? Oak, hornbeam, and silver birch together.
Those were the three
recommended to us. Yeah. They recommended it to us for this area.
Yeah.
And for replenishing the trees. And as I mentioned him, the beekeeper
has just arrived.
It's my brother Matt. He's on beekeeping duties today, but he also he does a bit of the tree surgery with the local tree surgeon, and he sorts out that stuff for us. We're going to be checking all of our silver birch trees now.
Well, it's, you know, most of the
one that's doing the best, I've noticed, is the hornbeam, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the one that's.
One of them
they seem to be thriving there. And we've got guards around them again, and that's protecting from the squirrel. Because the squirrel will strip the bark once they get to a certain size.
I think in some areas, not the deer.
I would probably, I would imagine so.
Strip the bark.
The reason we knew about that is in fairness to them on that front, we contacted a local authority, and the forestry section with that, he actually said, whatever you do when it comes to planting the trees, make sure you get guards. And the reason he said that is because he planted trees himself, and they got to a certain level and they were just killed off because they stripped the bark from them. So you can see we're nearly there now. Just finishing off, we shaped the daffodil, and then we'll add just a little bit of the detail, and then Thomas the wood carver is just going to put a little bit of shellac on this one. What we're working on as well at the moment, we're trying to get on top of all of our bespoke requests. We've been very fortunate with different requests coming in, but with bespoke work, it does take up a lot of time because they're more one-off things. A lot of time involved in the designing as well as the making, but hopefully the demonstrations give you an idea of how we go about making them. We've got a few different videos coming up. We've got the.
Actually, you've got a drawing there, Dave. You might show people that.
Oh, you're thinking the one we did for our neighbour?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one.
Gives people a
simple
idea.
A very simple. If you're interested in designing, making love songs, very simple one that we did for her. She's working up in Scotland, so you got the thistle on there, and of course you got the daffodil for Wales because she's from Wales.
There's a little heart on there as well.
A little heart, but there's a story as well behind the daffodil. There's a second meaning, and she explained the story to us. And so she's had some spoons that we've made, and they will be heading up to Scotland.
And they'll be going from Scotland. They'll be going
all around the world from there.
To Canada, I think, aren't they? Yeah.
Canada and Australia as well. So.
Which will not be easy to take into.
No, Australia is quite restrictive with bringing wood into the country. So there we go. That is That one there, the daffodil, we've just got the trumpets.
Oh, there are. Aubrey's emailed a link.
Oh, brilliant. We'll have a look at that.
About the pigeons.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have a look at that. That's going to be on my list of videos to watch whilst we're carving. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Aubrey. There we go. Have we got the brush? Yes, we have. Main thing I just wanted to show you is if I put a coat of shellac on the drama masks, because I've sanded all of this, so it's just seeing the character on the wood and on the grain and also on the fleur de lis. Although I don't know if I'm saying that right, fleur de lis. There we go. So you can see just putting it on in the direction of the grain. And that's the main part of the carving then. Done and dusted. There we are. Hopefully that's interesting. Thank you all as always. Great contribution as well. Thank you for all the comments and things. It's always interesting to know what's happening. Because everybody's from different places, it's fascinating to know in terms of the environment and tree planting and things like that, what else is going on. As always, we will have our weekly video on Wednesday. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure what one we're uploading, but that'll be on Wednesday evening for ourselves, Wednesday morning for others. And hopefully that one's interesting. All going well, we'll be back again next Monday afternoon. And we'll be demonstrating a different carving. Well, thanks again, and I hope you all have a good week.
Yucky da.